PowerBoat Television. PowerBoat Television is sponsored by Sea-Doo. When it comes to recreation, there is no contest. Boats and Places magazine, available in print or digital versions. And Yamaha, conquer water.
I'd like to welcome you, but I'm a little preoccupied navigating these waves. It seems Lake Ontario is ticked off this morning. Yesterday, when we were hanging out at St. Catharines Marina, it was serene. Calm waters, clear sky, and all-around beauty of a day. We even went out for a sunset cruise, lightheartedly looking forward to our big boating adventure of a Welland Canal transit. Yeah, well, not today. At least we didn't have far to go in the open lake. St. Catharines Marina is located right on the eastern arm of the mouth of the Welland. And boy, did those breakwaters work. Instant relief as soon as we were in the canal. Now that things have calmed down a little bit, now that we're in the Welland Canal, I can officially welcome you to this episode of PowerBoat Television. And this is something good to know. The canal is quite sheltered. Those breakwalls do their job. Now we're just heading up to the pleasure craft dock to check in, and we'll take it from there. We got 8 locks to go, about 43 kilometers of boating, and some nerdy history on the way. First thing anyone has to do is check in with Master Control using the direct line at the pleasure craft dock. Here you'll get your instructions, and you can pay for the transit if you haven't done so online already. Okay, we'll sit tight. Thanks, man. Bye. Mechanical work on one of the locks meant an hour's wait, I was told. The crew, my mom, stepdad, sister, and brother-in-law, passed the time with cards, while my wife Jay and I reviewed the Pleasurecraft guide that you should print off the Seaway's website. Be prepared to wait it out. You can't beg your way off the dock and into the lock, and once you start, you have to continue all the way through. There's no resupplying or refueling on the way, so have your tanks topped up and your fridge and cooler full of snacks and drinks. Seaway Welland, this is worth the wait, over.
So wait, Seaway Welland, in the next 10 minutes you're going to get a green light at Lock 1, over.
Green light at Lock 1 in the next 10 minutes. Copy that, over. Using the info in our Pleasurecraft guide, we were able to prep our fenders as we cast off the dock and towards Lock 1. And they sure are accurate. 9 minutes later, bingo. The entire canal is 43 kilometers long from Lake Ontario to Lake Erie with 8 locks. But since we're climbing up the steep Niagara escarpment, the first 7 are all within 11 kilometers of each other. The whole thing being massively important to commercial trade.
The St. Lawrence Seaway, and the Welland Canal in particular, is a vital link between the Great Lakes and the Atlantic Ocean. There's a lot of commercial activity. The cargo that goes on the canal basically supports 227,000 jobs and up to $35 billion in economic activity per year. So it is an essential link to the North American continent.
It's also essential for anyone wanting to get their personal boat between Lakes Ontario and Erie without using a trailer, but it's no simple cruise. On the way up the canal, you enter the locks at the lowest point and have to grab the lines the lock staff lower to you. Lock 1 is definitely a learning curve, but so far so good. It takes about 12 minutes to fill, and that means churning water in turbulence. Shortly after the water is at the right height, everything swings into action, and in no time at all we get the white light, which means we can leave. So we cast off, and thanks to the friendly and helpful lock staff, know exactly where to go in Lock 2. On our way out, the clouds started to break up and the heat kicked up. A nice change from how this whole adventure began. Cruising along the calm waters between the locks and alongside a running trail is a perfect time to fill in the paperwork. A one-sheet form with all the basic info of your boat, hull number, owner, contact info, and such. When you get the green light on the final limit of approach sign, you're clear to enter. So here goes lock 2. Later in the show, we get to the famous and massive flight locks and come face to face with one of the big boys.
Time for Power Profile, brought to you by BoatTest.ca.
This week's Power Profile is the 2016 RXT-X. These are the two color options for the 2016 model. It was originally introduced in 2007, but there's been upgrades over the years, and I think the 2016 model is the coolest. First of all, it has the second generation IBR, the on-water braking system, so you can brake a little bit faster than you used to be able to, but with less of that nosedive. Second, they have the ergo-lock system, so it's the seat where your knees can really dig in. It's got the angled footwells to help lock you in, and it has the adjustable ergonomic steering. But possibly most impressive of all, once you're locked in and sitting in the watercraft, not so much on it, is the Rotax engine. It is the most powerful one they've ever produced. 9% bigger, but produces 15% more power, and that means the 2016 RXT-X has 300 horsepower. The Rotax 1630 Ace engine really does take Sea-Doo to the next level. The aluminum block engines are plasma coated. The new intercooler cools the air by 120%, resulting in more condensed air charges. But what does friction reduction, increased cooling, plus a redesigned supercharger actually add up to? Check this out. Amazing performance. I topped out at 71 miles per hour at 8,000 RPM, but Sea-Doo says 72 is possible. Maybe I need a diet. Even still, 71 is wicked fast. If you're going to whip yourself around, the ergo-lock system helps secure you in place, but more about that in a bit. I enjoyed running in the 50 to 60 miles per hour range, both in the bays and in the channels. And even in big waves, running at 46 miles per hour at 6,000 RPM was fun. And wave jumping big rollers wasn't enough for me to need to slow down. But when you want to do that, you're in luck. For 2016, Sea-Doo has introduced the second generation of the intuitive brake and reverse system that has nixed the bow dip that used to happen. From 50 miles an hour, stopped without dipping the bow. Impressive. Once you've slowed down, the longest Sea-Doo haul on the lineup is as stable as anything I've been on. Back on the beach is a good place to get a good look at some of the features. Though it appears I'm not the only one eager to hop on and check out the RXT-X 300. Here, you can get a good look at the hull design, which keeps it running smoothly over and through those big waves. And the sponsons are easily adjustable to 3 settings. Actually, when the seat's up, you can see part of the ergo-lock seating system. It's narrow, so you don't have that awkward wide stance. Your hips can be more natural, and your knees lock in a very natural position. Very comfortable ride. The ergo-lock system also means adjustable handlebars. The AES, or Adjustable Ergonomic Steering, means your arms will always be in the ideal and customized position for you. In the bow, there's a watertight removable compartment, which is a great touch, but having this out on the water is where the real joy is. When Sea-Doo promised to take riding to the next level, they set the bar high yet again. But with the 300 horsepower RXT-X, they've definitely cleared it.
Closed captioning for PowerBoat Television is brought to you by BoatBuys.com. Ready to buy? Then head to BoatBuys.com, where you will find thousands of new and used boats for sale. Here's this week's My Boat feature.
It's an absolutely beautiful fall day today, but unfortunately, it's the end of the boating season here. So this week on My Boat, we're going to take you through the steps of doing your fall maintenance and winterizing of this Mercury 64-stroke Bigfoot. Step 1 is to add fuel stabilizer to the fuel tank so it will be distributed throughout the entire fuel system when you're warming up the motor. Next, allow several minutes to warm up the engine using a set of muffs on the lower unit and never run at more than an idle. Now, as well as using the old-fashioned muffs to flush the motor and keep the coolant going through it as you warm the engine up, the newer Mercury outboards all have this flushing port. So we're able to put the hose directly to the motor. With the engine warm, remove the cowl and hose and set out a pan for the oil and remove the drain plug from the mid case and let the oil drain. Hopefully you'll catch it all. Before changing the oil filter, stuff some rags past it to catch any drips. Then use either a small strap wrench or fitted wrench with a 3/8 ratchet drive to remove the filter. Before installing the new filter, coat the gasket in oil and only hand tighten the filter so it is easily removed. You will need a funnel to fill the crankcase, and I cannot stress enough that you have to use oil specified for 4-stroke outboards. Automotive does not cut it. It's best to use OEM oil. The 64-stroke will take 3 liters of Mercury 25W40 oil. After idling the motor to circulate the oil to the filter and checking it for leaks, you should verify the level. As well as an oil and filter change every 100 hours, Mercury also recommends servicing the gear case and prop shaft, so the prop and components were removed. Removing the drain screw in the vent and fill plugs made quick work of draining the gear case. Well, while the gear oil is draining out of the case, we're going to move on, let it drain, and go to some of the points for inspection and lubrication, starting here with the prop shaft. First, clean off the old grease and inspect the shaft for damage in fishing line and other debris that can damage the shaft seal. Then apply a generous coat of Mercury 24C to prevent corrosion. Also clean and inspect the prop splines, thrust washer and hub, and re-lube and reinstall the prop. Well, the next thing we're going to do is lubricate some of the swivel points on the motor with Mercury's 24C grease, which comes in the cartridge size for these grease guns. So the first one I'm going to tackle is right here. The most tedious task for the 100-hour or fall maintenance is using a hand pump to refill the gear case with OEM regular or synthetic gear lube. When lube flows from the level hole, replace the level, vent, and fill screws, remembering to replace the gaskets. Next week, we'll wrap up the maintenance on this Mercury 4-stroke.
Time for Fooditis, brought to you by Boats and Places magazine. See the digital edition at boatsandplaces.com.
One of the most popular types of boats in the used boat market, of course, is a bowrider, and there's lots of brands and models to choose from. One of the brands you should look at is Larson. They've been in the boat building business since they were doing wooden runabouts, and now they produce boats ranging from bowriders to large express cruisers. So this week on Fooditis, we're going to have a look at a great example of their products, a 2007 180 LX Bowrider. The layout of the 180 is classic bowrider. No truly unique features, but the details are well executed and more than satisfactory in 2007. The bow features 2 lounge-style seats for adults, where the back and gunnel cushions are fixed. Solid stainless grab handles and 2 cup holders round out the amenities. And of course, there's storage under the cushions. Larson's VEC molding process means the lockers are gel-coated, a nice feature in this boat. Moving back into the cockpit, which is well protected by the curved sport windshield, the layout features dual helm consoles and twin bucket seats. The helm sports a very legible and complete set of instruments in the upper binnacle with minimal system switches. The passenger console is 1 large locking storage bin. The Jensen Marine stereo is protected from water and still sounded great. Both of the seats are bolstered and fully adjustable. One criticism is the in-floor locker. The hatch won't clear the seats. For a 17-foot, 7-inch boat, the cockpit is roomy, aided by the simple aft bench seat with full beam-to-beam storage. Lifting the small sun pad reveals the Mercruiser in line 4. At the transom, the molded swim platform is small but functional with a boarding ladder and grab handle. Because of quality two-tone gel coat and top-grade marine upholstery and carpets, this 2007 180 has held up well. It just requires a thorough detailing and it would be ready to sell. This Larson 180 is powered by Mercruiser's 3-liter 4-cylinder TKS, or turnkey start, entry-level motor. Now, one thing that's great about this engine is certainly its fuel economy and its long history of being reliable. It's not the fastest boat on the lake, but it is still a pleasant ride. The Mercruiser 3-liter with its 2-barrel carburetor produces 135 horsepower and was capable of propelling the lightly loaded 180 to 20 miles per hour in 7.56 seconds and to 30 miles per hour in 10.8. Modest but sufficient. Trimmed up and turning 4,600 RPM, the 180 average passes of 35.1 miles per hour. But this package is not about speed. Its mission is to cruise comfortably on smaller lakes and rivers, and it does that well between 19 and 25 miles per hour at 3,000 to 3,500 RPM. The Larson's Delta VEC construction hull with 21 degrees of dead rise at the transom provides a dry, comfortable ride. The 180 tracks well and sweeps through turns without any vices. When this boat first hit the market in 2007, it was a great price on it. Now, several years down the road, depreciation has even improved that price. So this makes this a very good buy on the used market. What you end up with is a family-friendly 18-foot Bowrider with a very fuel-efficient 3-liter turnkey start Mercruiser 4-cylinder in it. So for smaller lakes around cottage country where you don't need that big speed, this is a great package.
Here's another boat locker tip.
Regardless of the type of boating you do, most of us have a variety of different items that require different chargers and different power sources. Now, these range from smartphones to our iPads for navigation or weather or other communications, to laptop computers, and of course to cameras. Rather than carry a bunch of different adapters and chargers, this power pack from Go Green Marine can handle them all from 5 volts to 19 volts with a wide range of adapters. Now, what's also really great about this Go Green Marine power pack is not only can it charge your electronic devices, but if you happen to leave your boat's stereo on and kill the battery when you're out on the water, it has the power to start your boat.
Welcome back to our Welland Canal Transit. This commercial wonder is almost 200 years old, all to avoid this little boating obstacle.
Mainly it was maximizing the use of existing rivers, but as it got busier and busier with traffic, bigger boats wanted to come in but couldn't negotiate either the restrictions of the first canal, so second canal was built, third canal was built, and today we're standing at the fourth Welland Canal, which was built in the 1920s to 1930s.
The current one is essentially a straight line from Lake Ontario to Lake Erie to allow the big ships to navigate it more easily, but there are 300 to 400 recreational boats that go through each year as well. If you're planning a trip between the lakes or just want to take on the Welland for the adventure, be aware there are restrictions.
We have a minimum requirement of 20 feet length and 2,000 pounds. You need 3 people on board, 1 to operate the craft and 2 people to tend the lines. And everybody has to wear a personal flotation device.
That 3-person crew is the minimum. Sure, you can do it with 3, but the more people you have, the easier it is. We had 2 at the bow and 2 at the stern, 1 holding a line and 1 keeping us off the wall with a pole. A good tip is to make sure you run the lines to the far side of your boat for better leverage. Just make sure you can easily slide the lines along the cleat. Don't tie off. The average rise of each lock is just under 50 feet, which means huge doors. But when you get to locks 4, 5, and 6, they're twice as big. Here, there is no channel between locks. Instead, it's back to back to back, so the exit doors for lock 4 are also the entry doors to lock 5. Luckily, these aren't at the start of the journey. Even after getting through 3 locks, these are still intimidating. It's the same system though, and the rise itself is no bigger. It's just that the doors look like the gates of Jurassic Park when you're heading upbound and enter at the lowest point. You have to drive right up to these behemoths, and then try to keep it in position as you go up. At the top of these three that lift you onto the Niagara Escarpment, we ran into our only traffic of the day, a ship coming out of Lock 7, which meant we had time for a lunch break as we sat atop Lock 6. The flight locks are twinned for dedicated upbound and downbound traffic, as waiting for 3 locks would be a nightmare. Every other lock is single, so you might have to wait for someone to come or go. But it's not too bad, even though sometimes these big guys can go very slowly and just inch out of the locks. The final big lift in Lock 7 was technically as straightforward as the rest, but the sounds were downright spooky. Once that lift is done, it's smooth sailing for a few hours. You have to wait for a lift bridge, same system as the locks, wait for the green light, but it's mostly just a straight shot from here. Largely along a man-made channel, which admittedly is the boring section, but it can be a nice break from the hours of work you just did. The final lock is the same length and width as the rest, but otherwise looks a lot smaller, because the rise is only a few feet to regulate the level of the canal before entering Lake Erie. Here you don't even tie up in a recreational boat, you just kind of idle in the center. The final obstacle before considering your transit complete is a final lift bridge. It takes a few minutes to lift, we've sped it up here, but they start lifting as soon as you approach, so you don't have to wait much at all if there's no traffic. And instead of sliding right into Lake Erie, we're going to make a hard turn to starboard and call it a day. So all in all, that went pretty well for us. 7 hours, that's pretty quick actually, but it's still exhausting. And Sugarloaf Marina, right at the mouth of the Welland, is a welcome refuge. So we're gonna tie up here, relax, maybe have a cocktail, but after we're tied up, and review the pictures and enjoy our break. But it went good. Good job, team. Nice. Woo. The downbound trip is the same length, but much more relaxed. Water drains out of the locks like water out of a tub, slowly and with none of the turbulence you deal with on the way up. After that upbound trip, this is a breeze. And after doing the Welland Canal twice in less than a week, you can cruise off knowing that you've completed one of the greatest and most historic boating adventures in North America.
Next week on the show, my wife Lisa and I head for the Land O'Lakes to spend some time on the water in Eastern Ontario.
To watch the show on broadband or for any questions or comments, visit us at PowerBoatTV.com or follow us on Twitter and Facebook.